The TransAmerica Trail by Sam Correro is a most amazing route across the U.S. The TAD, as it's often called, is mostly on Forest Service and BLM roads with the occasional Jeep trail and two-lane paved highway. Intending to drive the entire length, my friend Ray and I spent 22 days along the TAD, completing the western half of the trail from Port Orford, Oregon to Buffalo, Oklahoma. While extensive forest fires and other challenges would force us to occasionally reroute, we'd complete an estimated 85% of the original route. Join us for an intimate look into the history, people, geology, sights, and sounds of one incredible country.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to day one of the TransAmerica Trail. Ray, are you ready for the TransAmerica Trail?
I am ready. Let's roll.
We get occasional glimpses of the Elk River here. We've been following it for a few miles. We're having a little problem with the CDs. What's new? Darn radios. Mark's up on 4.
Layers 2.
You are loud and clear.
You're loud and clear as well.
Yep, looks like it was that antenna. Looks like there's been a lot of trimming of fallen trees. Get a load of the view to the right back there as you do that turn.
Yeah, you can see this tree is uprooted, and if we try cutting it, it'd just fall right down. Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
come up here.
Why not? I just want to go up there and shoot some video, Ray.
I just saw a bear up there.
I suggest we come back to the river, to Elk River, and we drive along that road right there and see if we can't join up right there.
I think that's a good idea. Maybe we won't run into all this these
Yeah.
trees down. We had to stop. We can't go any further on this particular route because of all the trees down. Mark figured out another route, and we're going to turn around and try it.
We have scoped out another route and are going to go ahead and back to that. Well, we're back down here on the road by Elk River, and I have marked Forest Service 5325. If it goes through, we'll take us up back onto the Trans Am Trail just a little bit further down.
If we find our trail, we won't be coming back this way.
If it isn't blocked. Welcome to the Trans Am Trail. Hunting for a campsite. Well, we checked out several good possibilities. There's one that has a bathroom, vault toilet, and we're like, yeah, that's kind of a no-brainer.
Ray, what you got there?
Three Creeks Naughty Blonde Ale from Sisters, Oregon.
Oh man, that looks good. Hoo-wee. All right.
All right.
Time-wise, we did 75 miles today,
I know.
out of a goal of 200.
I know. I mean,
Now we knew we weren't going to do 200 because we got a late start because we had to take care of some stuff in town. Roughly a little bit over 2,000 miles that we're going to do before we get to Oklahoma, and if we did 200 miles a day, that would be what, 10 days?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I just don't see how we can do it traveling this kind of road and,
Yeah.
and stopping to take
that's the
pictures.
trees blocking the road after we've gone up 6, 7, 8 miles.
Wasn't that incredible?
And there were a lot of trees there.
Holy
Yeah.
I mean, we had to turn around, so I
Uh-huh.
guess it was a lot of trees.
Very nicely, and took a slightly different route that we found with the
Right.
Gazetteer,
Yep.
and were able to get back without too much loss. I think we might have had maybe 10 miles at most,
Yeah.
if even that. Probably only 4 or 5 miles that we lost at the actual.
I was just impressed how next thing I know you're saying we're back on course, and then we went through it. So, oh, I just love being home. Manuel's gonna kill you.
It had been a rocky start on the first day. While smoke filled the skies, there were no fires in our immediate area. However, we figured that other blazes resulted in pulling the crew cleaning up the road that was jammed with fallen trees. Still, we had a nice campsite and were prepared to continue the next morning. And we're right here. There's this pit toilet. And you can see the route's going to take us across Interstate 5. I think we can make it to Tiller over here.
Okay.
So that'll allow us to get gas there. And then maybe another 100 miles over to Crescent or Lapine. And if we can't make it to there, then we'll find a place to camp.
Another place to camp. Okay.
Okay?
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to day 2 of the TransAmerica Trail. We are departing a campsite on BLM land in Oregon. We do plan to cross Interstate 5 today. It's about 50 miles away. Pretty with the rock face right along in here. They just carved this road right into the rock, didn't they?
Got a semi just shining through that Spanish moss. Uh-oh.
Well, there was a note asking how to get past the locked gate. At least for us, the gate was not locked, obviously. So we went ahead and opened it, drove through, and closed it behind us.
We may need to read that right here.
Well, we ran into this sign here. It says the road is closed by Roseburg Resources Company. And yeah, we're supposed to go through here, right up that way there. This is the road that we want to be taking.
So driving along this major connector road, we're finding a number of the side roads that can take us where we need to go, but they're all signed the same way.
Ooh, another big one.
So I know that mineral extraction on BLM and other public lands is a hot button issue, but you're seeing what our complaint is in that regard, those of us in the Overland community, or at least some of us, because we're running into a lot of closed roads out here, being shepherded onto these major connector roads, which are full of very heavy truck traffic. So Ray and I have popped out on some paved roads, and we're not very far away from Canyonville, which we know is north of the route. And while in Canyonville, we can go ahead and gas up and pick up Interstate 5, get down Interstate 5 to where we belong. With luck, we won't run into any more mineral extraction companies who have closed off public lands. Welcome to the TransAmerica Trail, right? Again. Good old Starved Out Creek. Well, I hit something there, jerked the steering out of my hand. I'm not sure what it was. Gear is your friend.
We hit pavement near the town of Tiller as it was getting late in the day. The rerouting around the mining activities had delayed our travel by several hours. Once we arrived in Tiller, we realized that our information about the town was incorrect. We could find no open gas station or motel. So we proceeded a bit further, back to Canyonville, where we had gassed up earlier that day. That evening, Ray and I would reassess our original intention to drive all the way to West Virginia, and we'd gather some intel on fires that would interrupt our immediate plans. Occasionally, in the discussion group of my YouTube channel, people will ask me questions about gear, procedures, what I use, and I thought maybe after a few of these videos here that I'm preparing for this series for the TAT, that I would like to answer some of those questions. And today, since use of maps became critical in this part of the trip, I thought that would be appropriate to discuss what my planning tools are and what the tools we use out in the field are for our mapping. And of course, you got your standard maps you can pick up when you cross the borders into various states, and it's always handy to have some of them, but they're not going to tell you much about the off-road activities. And of course, carry an atlas just in case we cross a state border where there may not be a place to pick up maps. Now we get to the heart of the matter. Gazetteers. We have one for each one of the states that we plan to cross as a part of the TAT, with the exception of a couple of states that we'll only be in briefly. New Mexico, we were only in it for about an hour, so we weren't too worried about getting lost in that hour. So those are the kind of maps that we carry. So now that I've talked about the paper product maps that we use, I'd like to talk a little bit about the digital mapping products that we use. Specifically, I use Backcountry Navigator running on a Nexus 7 tablet as my primary topo mapping
application. And this allows me to download maps in advance so that I don't have to have an internet connection. I can import GPX files and put routes on here, KML files, it's also compatible with those. I can export files that I can then use later on to examine the route on Google Earth after the trip, or to share with a friend. I also have another app on here that I just use for on-road navigation because it gives turn-by-turn instructions, and it's called Copilot GPS. And again, it's not something that I require an internet connection for. So if I've got an internet connection, then that's wonderful. I can use Google Maps. Google Maps is wonderful. If I don't have an internet connection, though, this works great, especially if I have forgotten to download the map with Google Maps. And just so you know, Ray uses a Garmin Drive Smart 61, and that has the advantage. It seemed to have a little bit more sensitive GPS receiver than my Nexus 7. That could be the mounting location or something. He has his mounted on the windshield. I have mine down in front of the dash. And but we did notice just one time during this trip that when I lost GPS signal down in some deep canyons, he still was able to maintain a GPS signal. And so that became important because we were trying to find a turnoff. And I had it marked on my tablet, but it depended on me knowing where the pip for my Jeep was. And so he was able to help with that, and it worked out okay. Okay, and then the last thing is, okay, so I said we download these maps. So how do I download the maps? Well, the maps for GPS Copilot come with the software. When you purchase the software, you're offered an opportunity to buy a set of maps, to download a set of maps with that purchase price. And I downloaded the maps for North America, including Canada and the United States. And so I have adequate maps for those two areas. With Backcountry Navigator, though, although the app does have provision inside of it for downloading the maps, it's somewhat slow. It can easily take me 2 to 3 days to download all the maps that I need. So what I have here are a couple of things. I have something called Mobile Atlas Creator. It's a free application you can find on the internet, and I can quickly select and download maps. I won't go into the detail on how that works, but select an area. I can tell it the scale that I want. If you want to try using this, I recommend you use scale 14. Don't go to 15, it'll take you longer, your maps will be slower to load, they'll have more detail, but for what we do, you probably don't need that level of detail. Just a little note for you there. Another application that I find handy is Garmin Basecamp, another application that's free on the internet, and I can use this to edit GPX files, to create GPX files, to import GPX files and look at them and change them around to suit what I plan on for a trip. And then the last thing, I mentioned it briefly already, that I like to use is Google Earth. And Google Earth lets me look at the route, and you can see this is the route as we ran it. And everybody I think is probably familiar with Google Earth. It's a pretty powerful little program for examining roads and things like that. You can look at it in advance and see if a road looks like it goes through, or if you're going to run into a canyon you can't cross. It's a great little app. Anyway, that kind of summarizes the tools that we use for our mapping, and gives you kind of a good base idea of what we do. As I was preparing to publish our video to the internet, I noticed that I'd forgotten to mention something important about backups. And that is, when you're depending on electronic devices, it's nice to have backups for them. To give you an example, I carry the laptop and I have backup copies of the maps. The GPX files are all located on the laptop, as well as a couple of backup drives that I carry. And as for a device to use, my Pixel 2 is an Android device and is compatible with the apps and has the apps installed. So if necessary, I could run Backcountry Navigator and GPS Copilot on this and use it in a pinch should I have a problem with the Nexus 7.